My name is Jyotsna, media representative of Frontlist Media. So today we have Sourabh with us, and we are so happy to have you on board, sir, today. So Sourabh Mukherjee is an author of true crime books, Deaths of Cold. He has earlier authored three psychological thriller novels, The Sinners, The Color of Passion, and In the Shadow of Death. In his day job, he's a work in a senior leadership position in technology MNC, and he has won several literacy awards and speaks regularly in literacy events and book fair. So welcome to the Frontlist Media.
Thank you.
So how are you doing, sir, today?
I'm doing well, and thank you very much. It's my pleasure to be here this morning. So thank you.
Okay. So our audience would like to know, who is Sourabh Mukherjee as a real person? Share something about yourself.
Okay, I think I'm basically a very grounded person, and like you just mentioned, I have a very demanding day job. I work in a senior leadership position in a technology company, and reading and writing are my passion. I am also a voracious reader. I set targets for myself every year in Goodreads, and I keep reading books as per that challenges. And then writing is also my passion, and so I've been writing for as long as I can remember. But I think it was about 6 or 7 years back when I decided that I want to take my writing more seriously. And in 2015, my first novel came out, In the Shadows of Death, with Srishti, and ever since it's been a very exciting journey. Otherwise, I love traveling, and thanks to my job, I get the opportunity to travel to a lot of different continents and meet people, soak in their culture. Of course, because of the COVID situation over the last 1.5 years, I have been homebound. Yeah, but and I miss the business tours a lot. I'm a movie buff. I love watching movies, and obviously, because I'm homebound for the last 1.5 years, I think I'm getting to watch a lot of these exciting movies on the OTT channels. Love listening to music, and yeah, that's a bit about me.
So this is the Sourabh Mukherjee in a nutshell.
In a nutshell, yes.
Yeah, thank you so much, sir. Thank you. So, sir, okay. So tell me something about your book. So what is your all book about? Deaths of Cold.
Right. So Deaths of Cold, like you mentioned, it's a true crime book. It's different from all my other books in the sense that there are 7 stories, and all of these stories are based on true incidents. So I think last year around October and November, so my publisher Arup Bose and we were discussing a true crime book, and we were exploring all kinds of ideas about what is it that we can explore. And then we realized that this would be a very exciting subject to talk about female murderers from different parts of India, and that was followed by extensive research, because we had to do a lot of research before writing this book. And then the stories came up, and I think that in a nutshell is the journey of Deaths of Cold. And I thought that this would be a very exciting topic for the readers, because true crime involving women murderers also spread over a very long time. So we talk about women murderers, let's say, for the last 30 years from different parts of the country. So that's what Deaths of Cold is all about.
Okay, so you came up with this idea with the Arup Bose writing, or
yes.
Okay. So how can you manage your life as an electronic telecommunication engineer and author and a speaker as well? Juggling must be so hard among them.
Yeah, it is. But I think at the same time, what I always feel that if you're really passionate about something, you end up finding the time for it. That's the only explanation that I have. Today, if you ask me, what is your secret formula? Honestly, there is none. But it is just that, I like I told you, I have a very demanding job. It takes up a lot of time, both during the day and sometimes, spreading also into the evenings, because I work with a lot of my clients who are outside India. And then, writing for me is also, a kind of a relaxation. So just as, I like reading or, watching a movie or listening to music, in the same way, writing also comes to me as a as a
relaxing
relaxation.
exercise.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So I think that's how I end up finding the time. And like I told you, when I before we were all struck down by COVID, when I used to travel a lot, I used to do a lot of writing at that time. So when I'm, let's say, waiting for a flight at the airport, or when I'm all by myself in the hotel room after a long day, that's when I would actually do a lot of writing. I miss that these days, but yes, but like I said, it's more like a relaxation for
But
me. And
I guess. So do you have any specific schedule writing time? Because last year you got a lot of time to write.
Yeah.
So do you have any?
So it's mostly like I said, late evenings when I'm done with the work, and I'm in a somewhat relaxed frame of mind. So late evenings, and I also do a lot of writing on the weekends. So that's
Okay.
mostly when I write when I'm home. That's usually my schedule.
Okay. So share some step for researching and writing a psychological thriller novel, because it must be a well researched. So do you have some specific tips for our audience?
Sure. See, I think because like I said earlier, I am a reader myself. So I think and my favorite genre is actually thrillers and psychological stories and all of that. So firstly, that I think is very important. That even before you try and write something in a particular genre, it's very important to understand the what is a good psychological thriller, for example, if you're writing in that genre. So I think reading is extremely important, because that's how you develop the power of imagination. So that is very important. And then I think when I write psychological thrillers, I think the first thing that I try and make sure is that you really get into the mind of your characters.
Okay.
Because otherwise you as an author, I can think of something. As an author, I can think that something is an excellent plot, or it's a very well written story. But the problem is, when as a reader you are reading that book, maybe that idea doesn't get communicated to you, or you do not relate to this thing at all. So I think that is very important. You should not that connect should be there. You should not get into a situation where your ideas are not getting conveyed to the reader in the right manner. And the way to do that is to really understand the psyche of people. And I think as a thriller writer, I think it is very important that you get into the minds of people, you understand the psyche of people. And especially when I was writing this book obviously is based on true incidents, which means that your the liberty or the freedom that you have is slightly limited, because the characters are real, the situations are real, the circumstances under which the crimes had been committed, those are real. So obviously the freedom to imagine or the freedom to create is obviously slightly limited, because these are all facts. So the very important thing here again is you try and understand these women. So we talk about 7 different women murderers, right? And I think it's not like you are just representing the facts like a newspaper report. It should not read like a newspaper report, because then what's the point in creating a book or a story book out of these incidents, right? So what I have tried to do even in this book is I have done extensive research. I have gone through media reports from those times. I read through the testimonies or the statements of the different witnesses, and I try to understand these characters in the first place. Like given the fact that these women committed gruesome murders or gruesome crimes, but what was the reason why they did that, right? It's not like one fine morning you wake up and you decide to go out and kill
someone to call,
right? So I think that is very important. So whether you are writing a true crime book or you are writing a fiction, I think it is very important to understand the psychology of people. And and the way I try to write is that once the reader reads the book, she should feel that maybe if I were in a similar situation, I would probably do the same thing. You never know. So I think it is very important to create that kind of a connection with your readers.
So was it hard to understand the psychology of women's minds?
It always is. Trust me, it always is, because so this book, like I mentioned, I talk about 7 real incidents. But even in a lot of my other psychological thrillers, like whether it's The Sinners or The Colors of Passion, I have very strong female protagonists, and I've always felt that it's very difficult to understand, and you can only learn by observing people, by reading about people, and somewhere you also have your own intuition. I think that is also very important. Thankfully, every time I write a book where a woman commits a crime, or even when I was writing this book, I am slightly apprehensive as to how the female readers would react to that. But thankfully, till date, I have got a lot of appreciation from female readers, and every time it's like it's a relief for me that okay, I did not end up angry or making them dissatisfied with the portrayal, which gives me the confidence that maybe I have done something right. Maybe I got it right. So the women could relate to that. But yes, every time I write about them, there is always a bit of an apprehension going in my mind. Am I interpreting these actions in the right way? What would my female readers think? But thankfully, fingers crossed, things haven't gone wrong till date. So
do you have someone in your life, like a women figure who can read your books and give her critique or something?
So absolutely. No, my wife usually reads the first draft of my novels, or the stories, and she's a very harsh critic. And in a way that helps, because like she would just say it on my face, if something is there that she doesn't like, or and not just about the characterization, but in general, if she feels that there are some things which can be fixed, I think that always is a very valuable feedback. So I think when you are writing mostly about women, it's always good to have somebody who's doing that first level of fact checking, and I think that definitely is a help.
You're so blessed, lucky.
Yeah, that way, yes. And I think in a way it's also good, because she keeps me grounded, because most of the time what happens is when you have your readers who are your loyal readers or who are your fans, in many cases they would only say very nice things to me. But I know it's very important to have someone who actually can give you very genuine feedback. And if something is not right, she would say it on my face, which I think is always very, very important. So that's always very important.
It's a good thing. So what advice would you like to give aspiring thriller writers?
So I think the first thing is I always ask people to be very honest with your craft. Just write the story that you have inside. I meet a lot of aspiring writers who get caught up in this whole process of doing what I call market research. They will first study what's the genre that is selling, how quickly they can get on a bestseller list, and they often get caught in that, and they try to create stories which will fit into that formula, and they will stories that will very quickly take them to a bestseller list. I advise authors not to do that, right? So be very genuine, tell the story which you have inside you. For example, when I wrote my first thriller, In the Shadows of Death, it was a very dark, psychological thriller, and like we all know that in general there is a very high demand of romantic novels in India. So there's a huge readership of romantic novels, and if you are making your debut, maybe writing that kind of a story is probably a very safe launching pad for you. Whereas, I opted for a very dark psychological thriller. And, there were a lot of my well-wishers, even, fellow authors who actually told me that, why are you taking that risk? Why don't you write a very nice, bubbly campus romance, which your readers would really love. But then, what I felt is exactly that, if I have a story inside me, which needs to be told, I should go out and tell that story, without bothering about the market. And most of my stories, the psychological thrillers that I've written so far, most of them also have very strong love stories at the core, because your love and your relationships are always, a very strong motivation in many cases for some of the crimes that people end up committing. So even in my thrillers, there are very powerful love stories at the core. But having said that, these are not conventional, very bubbly romantic novels. So be genuine, write the story that you have inside you. And the point that I made earlier, that, read a lot, try and understand your characters, and, try and establish that connection with your readers so that, they can relate to the characters that you write.
Okay. So thank you so much. Okay. So when did you start your writing journey, and have you ever faced any writer's block in your life, throughout writing career?
Right. So like I said, I've been writing for a very long time. Like, when I was in school, I think everybody does that, right? You write poems in the school magazines, and, your diaries are full of, poems and short stories and your illustrations. So I was no exception. I used to do that. Even through college, I used to write off and on. But I think, when I got into the job and, the demands of the job, obviously, the writing took a back seat. And, most of the writing I was doing at that time was, again, technical articles, and, I was writing white papers and those kinds of things. And then something very interesting happened. So in 2014, there was the Sulekha Monsoon Romance Contest. And I think around this time of the year, sometime around August, September. And they were looking for love stories on the theme of monsoon. And I wrote a story for that contest. And what I was told is that, there will be two levels of selection criteria. So on the first level, they would look at the audience votes. So people who like the story would vote for it on the website. And then there was a panel of very prominent writers who would basically judge all the entries. And I ended up winning a Golden Pen Award in that contest. And that was like a wake-up call for me. So then I realized
I can be a writer, right?
Exactly, yes. So you need that trigger point at some point in your life, right? Because you need some kind of validation, like somebody other than your parents should also tell you that, yes, you write well. Because, when you are writing at home and taking your stories to your parents, they would always say, oh, this is brilliant. But then, you need an external validation. And that was, a trigger point for me when I realized that, okay, there are a lot of people who voted for my story, which means, there is a popularity of the way of that particular story. And then there was a panel of judges who also, selected that story. So which means they also found some substance, some worth in what I'm writing. Right. So that actually was the trigger point. In fact, I have that story in one of my ebooks. It's called Love's Lost. It's an ebook available on Kindle, where I actually have that story with a different name, but that prize-winning story is there. And I think that was the trigger. That's when, I wanted to take it more seriously. I wrote my first novel, which was not a love story. There was a love story at the core, but it was a psychological thriller, about a serial killer. I took it to Srishti, and very kindly, Arup Bose and Joyanta Kumar Bose, they agreed to publish that book. And it was in 2015 when that first novel came out. And then, I think I have constantly been writing. So, I typically every 1 or 2 years, there's a novel. In between, I write short stories. So it's been a long journey. And thankfully, I have not been hit by the writer's block till date over the last 5-6 years. And I think the reason for that is, I never stop writing. Even when I
never stop reading as well.
Exactly, I never stop reading. So because if you keep reading constantly, you keep getting ideas, and they inspire you, right? And I think that keeps happening to me. So even when I'm between two novels, I probably keep writing small stories and short stories and things like that. So yeah, so I think it's been thankfully I've been blessed so far.
You are so blessed that you haven't faced any obstacles.
That's right. Yeah.
So I would like to know, who is your favorite author? That you are so much into psychological thriller. So it must be authors you liked.
Yes.
Who they are.
So I think in my childhood, when I was growing up, I was reading a lot of Bengali fiction, and I used to read these Byomkesh Bakshi novels, which you must be aware of. So Sharadindu Bandyopadhyay.
I think you wrote a story which is in a Bengali, right?
Yes. I wrote my first Bengali novel, I think in 2020. So there was a lot of people who were saying that, you are writing all these bestsellers in English. Why don't you also write something in Bengali? So, that my first novel came out last year. I think there are also a couple more books in the pipeline, which would probably come out, I don't know, maybe next year or something. I think because of the COVID, the whole publishing pipeline got pushed back a bit. But yes, yeah. So coming back, and then, I read a lot of Satyajit Ray in my childhood, Feluda stories and all of that, which I think, every Bengali child would do. But then I think as I grew up, I sort of got exposed to a lot of, international literature as well. I, of course, absolutely loved Agatha Christie. I mean, who doesn't, right? I mean, everybody loves Agatha Christie novels. I loved Hercule Poirot as a character. And in fact, what I really loved about Hercule Poirot as compared to, other detectives as well, is that the Poirot focuses a lot on the minds of people. So if you read Agatha Christie stories, there are a lot of, there are a lot of psychological, influence in the novels, and Poirot focuses a lot on that, and I like that a lot. So even in my stories, my detective Agnimitra, he says the same thing. He says that you can always look at physical evidences like the marks on the mud, or the cigarette ash, but at the end of the day, what goes on in the minds of the criminals, that's what you really need to understand. Yes. So that's what. And then I think very recent, and then once I got over that phase, I got introduced to James Patterson, and I absolutely loved the Alex Cross stories. And more importantly, what I always say is that I have learned a lot from James Patterson's way of structuring a novel. The very short chapters, which sort of keeps you going. Then the way he ends every chapter, with a hook, so you are like almost forced to jump to the next chapter. So there is so much to learn from James Patterson, for a thriller writer. And very recently, I absolutely a fanboy of Gillian Flynn. I have read all her books. Paula Hawkins, once again, absolutely loved it. The Girl on the Train, for example, I've seen both the English, the Hindi movie adaptations, but I think none of them comes even close to the book. If you have read the book, I think it's brilliant.
Books are always best.
Books are always best, exactly, and I've always loved that. And then I'm also a big fan of Kigo Higashino. I think Devotion of the Suspect S, Malice. I think some of these are brilliant books. So yeah, I mean, like I said, I mostly read thrillers and very gruesome murders, and that sort of excites me as a reader, and that's what I try to do when I write as well.
I can sense you are a voracious reader.
I am. Yes, I am. I make the time for that. And like you said, because books, I think, are always the best, even better than movies and web series and all of that. Yeah. When I read a book, then I see the web series adaptation and I'm like, what have they done to the book? So there are a lot of examples. I do not want to take names, but that has happened to me so many times.
Okay. So this is my last question.
Yeah.
So your books have also been made into the audiobooks. So do you really think the audiobooks have brought a new revolution to the publishing industry?
I think they have, to a large extent they have. In the West, for example, outside India, in fact, they have made a very large impact, and I think it's slowly catching up in India as well. Okay. And I think the reason for that are many. So firstly, I think the advantage of an audiobook is that, you can listen to the story irrespective of where you are. I've seen people going on a morning walk, or, when you are jogging, or when you are commuting to work, or, you are waiting for somebody, maybe, in a doctor's chamber, or maybe in a coffee shop. You can keep listening to stories. See, I think traditionally we all love listening to stories, right? Even as a child, we always loved, if somebody told us a story. So I think that has a big role to play in the mindset of people who listen to stories. And I think they are catching up in a big way. And a lot of my short stories have actually been made into audiobooks. The Sinners as a novel was made into an audiobook in Audible. In the Shadows of Death is available on Storytel, again, as an audiobook. So
your all books are available in audiobooks, right?
Almost all of them, including the Bengali one. I think The Colors of Passion is the only one which is not available as an audiobook. That's so it's available in the Kindle and paperback. But other than that, I think all my short stories as well as novels are in audiobooks.
Okay, thank you so much. And we just end of our interview. So there's some quote you want to share with our audience.
Sure, sure. You may have to edit this part. I'll just get a copy of the book and then.
Yeah, sure.
Sure.
Okay.
Right. So this is my book, Death Served Cold. As you can see, it talks about the most dangerous women murderers from India, and I'm absolutely sure you would love these stories because the interesting thing about the women murderers is that I've always felt that there is a gender stereotype that we always tend to do. You always feel that women can only play the role of a nurturer. We always think of her as the loving mother and the sister and the wife and the pretty girlfriend who's sort of all devoted to you. So we somehow have that stereotype, but that's not always true. And the gender has got nothing to do with the propensity of a human being to commit a crime. Like a woman is as likely to commit a crime as a man as well. So and that's the myth we wanted to address with Death Served Cold. I'm told people are finding it very exciting and thrilling, and I would absolutely want the viewers to give this book a try. It's a very interesting true crime book.
Okay, thank you so much, sir. And I hope that, and your book is already doing pretty amazing.
Yeah,
and I hope, and I hope in future also, and your also other books will also doing well.
Sure.
So,
thank you so much.
Thank you so much, sir. And we are so happy that we just took your interview. It's a wonderful chatting with you.
Thank you. Likewise, it was a lovely chat, I think.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you so much. Have a good day, sir. Thank you.
You too. Bye-bye.
Bye.